Hi everyone, good evening. So I'm Kimberly, as you all know. I work as a counseling psychologist and I have worked extensively with children, youth in Goa. Why this topic? Why child mental health? Well, to a great extent I believe that children are, and it's not that I believe, factually, children are the adults of tomorrow, right? And so in that way, how our children regulate their mental health, how they cope with certain stresses, adjustment, tells us a lot about what the adults of tomorrow will be. In a study conducted by UNICEF, it was found that in India, people between the age of 15 to 24 found that in a minority, and this is compared to 21 other countries, a minority of countries, that in India they found people were least likely to go ahead and ask for help for mental health help. And so I said, why not go through the lens of Harry Potter? It's something that millions have connected to all over the world. So when we look at the very first this picture, Harry is someone that millions over the world connected with. You can see the disparity between him and the rest of the family. So Harry lost his parents at a very young age, and he was very isolated from his family, usually very abused and neglected. And he carries this isolation. Why am I talking about isolation? Generally, the children, when they are left to cope with their emotions on their own, become adults who cope with their emotions on their own. And he carries this isolation with him everywhere. Everywhere he goes, every difficult situation, he will just go and sit by himself and figure it out. Though he has love, he is a loving child. As a child, he is drawn to a sense of belongingness. He looks for a sense of belongingness wherever he goes. And this is also very similar to children, that they will naturally go to a place where there's fun, where there's acceptance, and where there's love. And similarly, we see that Harry also he is attracted to people who are generally considered outcasts. And we can see that he makes his own band of outcasts. He generally goes towards trouble, and he does face bullying also. And why I talk about bullying is because bullying is so casual. It's so casual in the household. It's so casual in society. It's so casual in the class. To be called the small, like here they say Potter stinks. His name's Harry Potter, so they say you stink, you smell, or whatever. And whenever he goes through bullying, he doesn't actually go to anyone with it, that these people are ill-treating me. There's a case in this movie where he is punished by a teacher. The teacher actually tries to draw blood from him before making a mistake. And yet, though Harry is bold, is loving, he doesn't complain to anyone. And that's because he believes internally, to some extent, he deserves it. That his whole life, nobody has really loved him, and he deserves this punishment. When we look at parental figures, in this, we see that Harry latches on to a lot of parental mother figures and father figures. So these are two figures, and why I talk about this is a lot of times children, when they have no parental figures to teach them how to be an adult, they will latch on to another adult to teach them this. And so it doesn't really become a mother, a father, a godfather in this case to teach them how to adult. It becomes any human being who seems a little sensible, a little reliable, and he goes and trusts on him. And case in point, his godfather is not someone who is very reliable, but he sort of latches onto them because they are the only adults he knows and the only people he can rely on. Harry Potter also covers grief and PTSD in children, and I bring this up because of the COVID-19. Children went through a lot more, saw a lot more than they usually would. And that led to, and I'm sure even otherwise, emotional outbursts, anger, fury, rage. They don't know how to deal with it. They feel angry all the time. And you see that sometimes in outbursts, fighting with someone, irrationally reacting, being very reactive to something. And it just goes to show that Harry, and like most of our children, don't know how to emotionally regulate their emotions. And this is something that adults, each one of you, learn when you're our children, how to regulate your emotions. It's generally something you pick up from your parents. How do they cope with anger? How do they cope with grief? Now, Harry Potter is not just adventure and defeating things, it's also exams. And here in Harry, if you can see those dark figures at the top, they're called Dementors, and Dementors are a symbol for depression. Harry has Dementors attracted to him because he has more sorrow and grief in his life compared to everyone else. but how does he defeat these creatures? And really, how do we defeat dementors of our life? He repels them with positive memories. These are memories of the friends that he has made, the people who have loved him. These are memories of the parents, the parental figures that he latched onto. These are memories of escaping that abusive family that had taken him in. Another example is there are these creatures in Harry Potter known as boggarts, which take basically the shape of whatever you fear. If I fear a clown, it will take the shape of a clown. And very often in this movie, how do they deal with these things? How do they destroy them? How do they defeat them? With humor. They take this clown and they take that one professor who they're really scared of, and they put him in a grandmother's clothes and they laugh at it. And that just goes to show that humor as a way of coping with difficult situations, with difficult people, in times you're afraid, is something that really helps and can really help our children. The previous slide and this slide just go to show how unique Harry and all children are. That innately they're very kind, that they're very precious, they're very delicate, but they're very precious, unique. And Harry's story is unique, just as every child's story is unique. Harry has different circumstances. He is going to defeat the evil in the world. But of course not all children are going to defeat the evil in the world, but each child is unique. Each child has a unique story. And how do we make children part? How do we help them with their emotions? How do we help them with their mental health? We make them parts of conversations. We come down to their level and see how do they perceive the world. How do they experience the world through their eyes, through their experiences, through their activities, their imaginative play. How do they relate to their friends? What kind of relationships do they have? Sometimes it tells us a lot about how children see themselves. So yes, that was very touched, but thank you so much for listening as well.